Hello, hello, and thank you for joining me again. This is another episode of Dela's Voice. Tonight, I have a very special guest joining me. He is an international best-selling author. He has spoken on stages over a lot of different countries. He is a coach. He is a mentor. He is a guru as far as real estate. So you can say this guest of mine is an expert at talking about money, how to make money, how to invest. And so if you have any questions regarding real estate, and be sure to write them down in the comments and we will make sure they are answered. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome on Dela's Voice my very special guest, Ahmed Hawari, and he is the real estate guru with a heart, and you'll get to see that for yourself. Hi, Ahmed.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me on.
Welcome on Dela's Voice. Thank you for coming tonight.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So, Ahmed, I want to introduce you to the audience first because you're more than just a real estate guru. There's a reason why people call you the real estate guru with a heart. So I want to hear about that. But I just want to read a testimonial from a very famous guy. His name is Jack Canfield. He is the sole founder of the Chicken Soup for the Soul. He said this about you, Ahmed. Ahmed, this is the truth. You spend all day thinking about real estate, and I do not spend all day thinking about it. You are someone who studied it for years. You know the ins and outs. You have been successful, avoided the pitfalls. So I want to work with someone who has been where I want to go. Okay? Everyone should be working with people who know more than they do. And in this case, you are one of those people who do. And so I think that's a great statement, don't you? I mean, honestly. So do you actually think about real estate all day?
That's a good point. First of all, those are so humbling from Jack Canfield, the creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul and the founder of Principles for Success, and he is an amazing guy in his own right. And he's right. I do think about real estate 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 a year. And most people think, I look at it this way, it's like you breathe the air and you need oxygen to live. To me, business as a whole, being an entrepreneur as a whole, it is that drive that keeps me going, and it's like the oxygen that keeps me breathing. And I keep telling people it's in my blood, it's in my vein, like genetically infused. And it's true. I think of real estate and how to make up the opportunity for anything I look at from that perspective. Does it work for me? Does it make money? How does it make money? And how can it work for both sides? It's not just about me making money. Mm-hmm. I've always, for 30 years in real estate, I've created a win-win approach to real estate dealing, whether as my tenants or as the people I helped, coach, and mentored, as well as the individuals I sold the properties to. And we manage those properties for them as well. So we developed a lot of systems to go with that, including turnkey operation, Airbnb. So there's a lot more to real estate than meets the eye, but it's always invigorating.
It's invigorating. See, okay. So I want to take a moment now and please ask anyone who's watching this show to please share it with your friends. Perhaps start a watch party. Just go ahead and press that button that says watch party so that your friends could watch this. You just never know what words you're going to hear tonight that is going to make that difference in your life. And so, Ahmed, please take your time too and go on Facebook page, because so you'll find me there. And if you could just share it to your timeline at the same time, so that your followers could also watch. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to read another testimonial, and this one is by another person. His name is Murat Tokel. And he said this about you: I have been coached by and worked with Ahmed. He is amazing when it comes to real estate and understanding your numbers. I highly recommend the Real Estate 1% Rule for anyone that wants to grow their business and become wealthy. Ed Perez, he is a member of the Laurelhurst Investments. He said this about you: the Real Estate 1% Rule is a diamond in the rough that has been hidden away for far too long. Thank you, Ahmed, for sharing your knowledge with us. And so these are some really good testimonial. You are a very passionate real estate guru. And so I'm first of all, I'm honored that you're here, but I can't wait to hear some of your words that you so generously share with everybody who's in your circle. And I have heard you talk about just real life tools, little techniques that you have about money and around money and investment. So I know that a lot of people are going to benefit from this. And so that's why I want to take my time, make sure that you are sharing on your Facebook page. Have you succeeded at that, Ahmed?
So far, I went to the places that is intended to go to, all the different groups,
Excellent.
and I'm inviting some other people,
Awesome. So just
So
I want us to take our time. And meanwhile, whoever's watching, please make sure that you have, if you have any questions, just put them in the comment section, and I will read them for Ahmed so that he can answer. Hey, people, this is as good as it gets to have your own personal real estate coach on camera. So use this to your advantage. Okay, Ahmed. Um, let's start by hearing from your journey. How did you end up here? Like, were you always real estate savvy? How does one become a guru at real estate?
that's an excellent question, actually. When I started, I tell people, interestingly enough, that I came to the US 40, this year will be 41, actually. 41 years that I've been in the United States. And I came in as a student to begin with, and money comes in from the family to pay tuitions, but quite often they never had enough money to pay the things that I need to do. So I rented a place close enough to campus, cheap enough to be able to afford. But one of those nights specifically, it's a story, obviously.
We love
I,
stories.
it's at nighttime. I'm going to bed, and I could swear I saw something go across the room. And I kept debating: do I want to get out of bed to really find out what that thing is? And this is in 1980, literally 40 years ago. Eventually, I get the courage to get out of bed, turn the light on, and it was a big rat. And the only words that came out of my mouth is not "God, disgusting, I want to get rid of this." The words that came out of my mouth: this will never happen in my places. The words we say and thoughts we create does create our reality, believe it or not. I didn't know that at the time, but that was a statement 10 years before I started real estate. And here I made a statement that this will never happen in my places, but I barely could afford the rent or the house, the place I'm staying at, or the college tuitions I was paying for. And 10 years later, I found myself on a path, eager to own something, because I grew up in a family of 9 kids. My dad rented a place that has 2 rooms, a hallway, a bathroom, and a kitchen. The 2 rooms, that one is a family room and one is a living room, acted as bedrooms, one for the girls, one for the boys. So the square footage of this apartment that we lived in could not have been more than 600 square feet of space, where most people would think one person would be suffocated nowadays. But yet, we didn't have much. So we grew up poor, is a good word. The ambition, the drive was instilled in us to always seek and dream and go for it. And I always wanted to own a house. I always felt this is a path for me. And little did I know that by 1990, I rented this place from a landlord who turned out to be a slumlord. And this is the thing about property owners. They could be either good or bad or somewhere in between. And in this case, he was what he is. 5 years later, I paid the rent, by the way. Are you interested in knowing how much I paid?
Yes.
$800 a month for rent. I rented the place for 5 years. I was living there. By the end of 5 years, I literally paid him almost $40,000 plus. And eventually I asked him a question one of those days, and he came to pick up rent. I said, "Are you interested in selling the house?" And as I was asking him, literally, I was turning away to go away from him, expecting a no answer. And to my shock is a good word. He goes, "Sure." And I turned faster than he could finish this. And I said, "Bob, did you just say yes?" And he goes, "Yes." And I said, "Awesome. I am grateful you said yes. So let's talk about money." So we discussed the price. But I know he's a slumlord, right? Not totally slum, but close enough. And I said, everything that needs to be repaired in this house has to be inspected and pass inspection in order for me to buy the house. Otherwise, I don't have a house. But before we got to that point, I said, "There's one slight problem." He goes, "What is that?" And I said, "I don't have any money."
A little problem.
Just a tiny one. Imagine you're trying to buy a house. Oh, you don't have any money. And mind you, I was a geologist and geophysicist. I worked a full-time job that I have a bachelor's degree in, and I have a master's in engineering geology, postgraduate, because I never finished the thesis. But with those qualifications, you think you will be living really good. And I was not, because I was supporting my brother through college. I was paying his tuition. And add to that, I took a second job as server in a restaurant. And between those jobs, I could not make ends meet. And I had to do something. And that was the moment that became the pivotal moment for me where things started. So we agreed on a price. When he found out that I didn't have any money, I swear to God, the big smile on his face became, I'm not kidding. I could look at his face and I'm like, oh God, here goes that house. And I had to think fast. I decided, what if it takes him $3,000 to fix anything? Would that be doable? So let me offer it to him. I said, "Bob, I have a proposition." He goes, "What?" I said, "I know you weren't happy with me saying I don't have any money." He goes, "Uh-huh." That's exactly what he said. And I said, "Now, what if I give you $3,000 more? You fix all the things that needs to be fixed, and if there's less than $3,000, you keep the rest. Would that be okay with you?"
It's a good deal.
"Yeah, wouldn't you think?" "Well, you're right." He took it. But I didn't give him $3,000 cash. Remember, I didn't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, what I will do, I will increase the price of the house by $3,000 that we agreed on. So now the price is up by $3,000 more to cover those expenses. And we signed the contract and we proceeded. And lo and behold, we got to the point. I didn't know all the ins and outs of closing on a house and a rental property. Well, when it came time to closing, he didn't want to close. And I'm like, oh God, this is too stressful. Why am I getting into this? I start to second guess myself. I was very fortunate that the title company turned around and told him, if he doesn't sign on the dotted line after it's all been done, they will sue him. I'm like, whoa. That was an eye-opener to realize sometimes you might need the legal system and things like that. Thank you for that educational lesson. Personally, that's why I was like, okay. He signed, I obtained the house. Now, this is the good news. I didn't have to pay any money down. because I was going through a program that allows you to get one first-time home buyer. And I think there is something like that in Canada. The US, they had it, and they use it's called an FHA system. They have
I,
inspection.
I think if I remember correctly, the first time I bought a house with my husband, we could pay, I think, 10% down or something like that. So we still needed a down payment, but it was very low.
Okay, in that case, it's great.
Mhm.
Officially, I was supposed to pay 3% down,
Oh,
which is really low.
yeah, but
But
still a
now,
lot when you don't have any money.
right, there was except a good thing about happened to me. This is what I'm saying. Everything happened just perfect, and I'm so grateful for that. The house appraised so well, way above the price of the house that I'm paying for, that they didn't have to have me pay the down payment, the 3%,
Oh, that's awesome.
which is a blessing. The
Yeah.
second part, in the US, which is different in Canada, I know that for a fact, the closing costs on a house, you could roll that into the house as part of the loan. So
Mhm.
I didn't have to come up with the end money to close on a house. In Canada, they do. In this case, when you bought your house at 10% down, you still had to come up with the money at the end, which is the closing cost. And what is a closing cost? We'll get into that in a minute.
Oh, that's good.
what,
Answer that.
what is included in a closing cost? We'll get into that in a minute. And I'm going to make a note for it here, closing costs, so
Yes,
that
please.
people will
In the meantime, I want to say hi to the people who are watching.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you so
welcome.
much. Right?
Oh my goodness.
Frida's watching. Ahmed. Navid is watching. Uh,
Yeah,
Annie Hardock is watching, and there's three other people. I can't see
yeah. I
there.
see there is Muad on my end, Shahida,
Debbie.
there's Mulad, Steve waved, Harris,
That's
Shahida
awesome.
Ali joined. Thank
Ooh.
you, thank you.
So you're in for a big treat, everybody who's watching. You're going to learn a few tips
Yes, you will.
on money talk tonight, because
So
this
once,
man is the guy. Okay.
thank you, thank you. So once I finish that process, I'm going to give you what are the highlights of this whole experience. Because I'm telling you a story, so your question is, what is the purpose of telling you a story? A, you'll remember the story, and B, then you will catch on those moments that I call them coachable and teachable moments. Is that okay?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. So when the inspection went, the appraisal went good, we came to closing, we closed, the money I had to pay, none, because the cost went into my loan. In Canada, of course, you have to pay that, right? So you pay that. It could be $3,000 to $10,000 worth, depending on the price of the house, maybe more. It depends on the size of the house and the cost of the market value. The interesting part about the whole thing is I closed on a house that I was paying $800 a month. It's a 2 unit, by the way. It's not just a simple one apartment. I'm renting the house. It's a duplex. So I'm renting 1 unit now, and I'm living in the other one. And the great thing about it is the $800 I was paying out, guess where is it going to now? Stay in my own pocket.
Yes.
I didn't have to pay it out. And the best thing about this whole thing as well is the money that the person was living and paying rent to the other landlord now is paying it to me is more than enough to pay the mortgage, the interest, the taxes, the insurance, and my utilities. So what am I paying to live there?
Nothing.
Bingo. Not only am I paying nothing, but I'm making $800 a month that I used to pay out. So now every year I make over $8,000 in income because I'm no longer paying that out. So I took the money and put it towards my brother's tuitions. And that is huge. It's like a full-time job for at that time. That's not 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
to just put it in perspective. Now, so you say, if I don't have money, can I be in real estate? And based on this example, do you think you can?
I mean, you just proved that you can. right?
Correct.
So someone might say, well, Ahmad, that was 30 years ago. Things are different now. The price of homes are 10 times more now than they were back then.
Sure, but the appraised value of these homes are 10 times more as well. The question is, are you able to structure the deal with the owner so that you can create a win-win approach?
Mhm.
And in this case, remember, I didn't have any money to pay for the repairs. Even though it was his obligation to pay for it, I had to get the house. I want the house bad enough that I created a way for us to both succeed by allowing me to pay him as part of the loan, as part of the price of the house, when I didn't have it on hand to give to him, because he was interested in taking this much cash out and be done. He doesn't care how I got it repaired, fixed. It's not his problem, is the bottom line. Well, you have to be creative as an individual going into a situation to figure out what it is that you can accommodate and do. So, is my income capable of paying for that house? Yeah, I could have taken a loan out. I just need a down payment. And if I borrowed the money, don't do that, by the way, especially in the US, because they wouldn't like it. Make sure they gift you the money, even if you borrow it. So I'm telling you one trade. If you say I borrowed the money, the banking system will frown on you. They
Yeah,
don't
because
like
that's
that.
still a loan, right?
Bingo. So
Yes.
if you know someone who is willing to say, gift you the money up front, and then he's a good friend and all that, you guys talk about it later. But it's a gift, it's not a loan. Then the equation is different to allow you to do that. So the other option is, and this is some of the things that over the years I have learned. Initially, I didn't know that. You could create where the owner is the one who's funding you. In other words, the owner becomes the bank. You're buying a property from someone who's willing to take payments on it
Like
instead of
you would
being
rent it. It's like you're continuing to rent it, but the rent is going for the mortgage instead. Is that
correct. You
okay?
have to make sure you write the paperwork that will be sufficiently enough illustrative and instructive to indicate that, and you are at the end getting something that you don't. It's called the lease option, rent to own option is
Yes.
the better term, or owner financing. So there's multiple terms, but each one behaves differently. So there's a lot more to it. But in other words, the simplest way I like to explain it, you were paying rent most often than not with a lease to own, rent to own, is you're still paying rent, but a portion of your rent will go towards purchasing the house. Owner financing is, I am out of the house is yours, we have paper agreement, I am the bank as an owner, and you pay me payments like you would do the bank. The house remain deeded in my name until you pay me off.
Hmm.
Okay? There's a third option, it's called land contracts. And there's a fourth option where you get other people's money and investors to be involved. So there's a lot of ways without having money up front that you can create a possibility into real estate. The question is, what is the comfort level, who the people you're dealing with, and how you go about doing it.
Oh, so good. This is good. This is
Thank
good.
you.
People people are going to get a lot tonight. So how
Yeah,
what
Praveen is on the line. I mean, he's watching.
who
Mr.
is?
Miss Dr. PPP.
Oh,
I
that's
mean, thank
right.
you.
Yes, and
Thank you.
Leslie is watching as well. So what is your take on?
Stephine is watching too, I see,
Hello,
as
thank
well.
you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. What is your take on renting? I mean, I know, but
Well, tell me what you thoughts on it, and I'll
well, I
tell
mean,
you.
I always thought that if I could own and pay a mortgage, I'd rather do that than pay rent. But
Okay,
that was always my idea.
perfect. Are you willing to do all the repairs and handle all the headaches and the taxes and the mortgage and insurance and everything that comes with a house?
That's a good question. So I guess I'm lucky because my husband does all of that.
Perfect. Or have a handyman guy do it. But
But you're right. You're right. There's all those things to consider.
so there's a trade-off. So
Mhm.
when people say, "Oh, I like to own a house because it gives me equity," in the U.S. we call living the American dream is when you own a house, have a wife, 2.5 kids, and a white picket fence, right?
You have 2.5 wives and 1 kid.
I don't know, but one of those. We're not living anywhere else. I'm not living in Utah where you can have 4 wives, but or
Yeah.
more, or they call it sister wives. Now we're going down bad. But
Yeah,
the
let's
point behind it is,
rewind.
if you if you decide to own a house and had all these things and living the American dream in this case, then you're willing to take on the responsibility that goes with it. And if you're okay with that, then it's a good thing. I studied the finance and mortgage systems actually for 7 years. So the first 2 years, I discovered my real estate 1% and how to really be able to buy any property at any time without going through all the nuts and bolts that people have to go through in real estate investments, and be able to make a judgment call whether this property is going to be prosperous and profitable for me or not in a matter of literally less than 5 minutes. How would you like to do that?
That's really good. Yes. Yes.
And if I told people this next thing, they probably would be shocked. And I truly mean that sincerely. Until 2013, so I started in 1990, right? In the first 2 years, I figured out that I used my real estate 1% to let me know what I need to know to figure out how the house, if I buy a house or a rental property, will it be profitable for me or not as an investment property? Because my whole purpose behind it is what? To create passive income, to create cash flow, to create easiness in my life to be able to do the things I want to do. So once I did that, then became the big question after that: how do I get loans repeatedly and no questions and asked about whether I'm qualified or not? I'm always qualified. Well, it took me literally almost 7 years to understand the mortgage companies and industry as a whole. What does it take for me as a person who has a job? Now I have a house with 2 units. Now I have another house with 4 units. So I have 6 units already in a matter of 2 years. And I want to grow because I realized I have to grow or get out, because it's one of those systems that in order to make it much more successful, you have to grow with it. So I figured it out. It has to do with I call it the numbers game. That's where my financial uh, paradigm shift came in as a result of learning these tools. And I realized, for example, that, well, I've been grateful, let's put it this way, that at any moment in time I want a loan, no bank could tell me no ever. Period. I had over 15 mortgages plus at one time.
Wow.
And I could just duplicate that. If I wanted more, I could have more, but I didn't want to. But at any moment in time, I could have 15 mortgages, and I had them, and it was no big deal. And it all turned out because what I've studied, even though it took me a while to get it, and I finally learned it, it's like, whoa, that was a rude awakening for me to got me to the point I was able to get a loan after loan after loan, no questions asked. But it's a duplicatable system that I really perfected to the point I was able to grow with it, create passive income, create rents that came out of it. I still had a job, by the way, at the time. I had a full-time job. I'm not knocking people who love their jobs. They love what they do. They do what they love. By all means, God bless you to it. And I was one of those people. I loved doing what I did because I did groundwater hydrology, cleanup, hazardous waste, environmental protection. I did that and I enjoyed it and I loved it. And I made the difference in people's life and the environment. But at the same time, I want to make a difference in people's life that rent from me. And I love that as well. And with those, it came the responsibility to learn the other tools like business strategy, effectiveness, troubleshooting, setting goals, setting plans. And it goes more and more vision, mission. And I start implementing a lot of these. I used to teach that for state government, actually, at one point. I was teaching the offices on how to become much more effective environment as a business. But I use those tools hugely in my business as a real estate. And that's where the success kind of start to build up even more and more.
And so this is what you teach now too, in your coaching business. You teach people, you coach people how to start in real estate, right? You show them the way.
Correct. They have a path, and I will, typically speaking, custom tailored. For example, Murad Tukal, CLE real estate.
Hmm.
He's given this one. He's my first mentoree that I coached about 12 years ago, I think. It's almost 12 years ago. And he saw how well I'm doing with real estate after now, 12 years from 30 to 18, I guess. He goes, Ahmed, I'm pulled out of the stock market, everything I had. I said, congratulations. What did you do that for? At the time, I don't know why he pulled them out. He goes, I want to learn real estate and I want you to coach me and teach me. And I'm like, whoa, how intense do you want to get into it? How deep do you want to get into it? So when we talk about coaching and mentoring, most people will probably know that if you are an audience, which we don't have an opportunity to do that, with a big room, 300 people, that's a workshop, right? And typically workshop, you get one person speaking to the rest of the group. You don't get the one-on-one attention or the much more intimate setting like you and I have it right now. But when you go to mentoring, which is the next level up, in this case, it's a little bit more expensive, right? Typically, you pay a little bit more to
Oh,
be
yeah.
on a smaller group setting. And from there, it's a little bit more money, but you get a little time to be answered, but not really direct focus attention like you and I are having right now. You and I, this interview, which I'm grateful for, is coaching equivalent, where you and I spend the time together, dedicated to answer your questions, help you out, set you business strategy, give you the roadmap to help you through it on what is best for you.
Hmm.
Because it's like this: we are not alike. If you look at my fingers, I use that as an example. Where's my camera here? Here we go.
There they are.
My fingers are not the same light and length, right?
Hmm.
People are not the same way. Our financial and being is not the same. So each one of us requires a different tool in some perspective to make us succeed, because success is the only option for me. And I've created a world that if we own it, there have to be, we provide homes, and that was my motto for 30 plus years now. We provide homes that we can live in. That was one.
You
Remember
mean
that rat?
you're
Remember that rat?
renting? Yes, you said. So
That's not going to happen in my places.
so you what you mean is the home that you provide for other people to live in has to be to your living standard.
Perfectly said.
Okay.
It's my home first. I can live in it.
That's
My
such a
wife and
good
kids can live in it.
philosophy. Oh my gosh.
And if I cannot live in it, why would I want to rent it to them?
Yes.
It's not even open for business until it's good enough for me
Hmm.
to reach those standards. Not everybody has the same standards, obviously, but in my case, I want to set a past standard that this is where I want to live at, and what everyone else gets is the same level as I would live in my own home.
Hmm.
That's one. The second part of it is create a win-win environment. So I created a system that when people had lack of financial education is a good word that I like to use, I helped them shift that paradigm about finances. To give you an example, if one person rented from me a one bedroom efficiency, and efficiency is, just to express it, it's a one room, a kitchen almost in the same space, and a bathroom, very much, and the bedroom is kind of partial of the whole living space. All right,
Like a bachelor apartment.
you could say that, yes. So this person has been denied from every landlord in the area. The reason for that, she was a rehab drug addict and nobody wanted to deal with her. And I've always had a soft spot for the dog underdog. But at the same token, we have standards and policies that they need to meet. requirements. One of those steps I will give you right now. You want to hear it?
Sure.
If you want to rent to someone, anyone, a third of their income after taxes is your rent, and two-thirds for them to live on. Notice I said after taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Most companies, they use gross. Well, if you make $1,000 gross income, after taxes, how much do you have left in Canada?
Hey, probably like $900, depending on the income.
Okay, that's pretty darn good.
I think.
In the US, you'll end up about 750. Almost a quarter of your income is gone to a third
I could
for
be.
taxes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I use that principle, a third of your income, so let's say a rent is $1,000. So based on that, your gross income has to be 1,000, right? If a third of your income is for rent, and most companies use the gross income, so if you create an income of 3,000 before taxes,
Three
you
thousand.
should, yes, you should qualify, correct?
Yeah.
What tends to happen is, and this is where our systems is so good, it's not subject to fail at all. It's always success is the only option. I even use the word F. Oh, I hate using it. Delete, delete, delete. I don't like that word because if you take taxes out, remember I said out of 1,000, you got 250 out, or in this case 3,000. So you lose $750 out. You have $2,250, right? But if your rent is 1,000, you have almost 40%, more than 40% of your income take home is your rent.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be comfortable living?
No.
Not really. You put yourself in a financial bind before you know it. And it's set up, really, it's set up to not help you succeed, in my opinion. So
Oh
our
my
system
gosh.
designed to help renters succeed and us succeed, we look at your net take home. So if you have 2,000 take home left in your pocket and you paid 1,000 for rent, you're going to be able to survive well and beyond that. And that's the objective.
That's why people are house poor. Do you agree?
Yes. When they rent, they're always struggling. And when
Well,
they own a house, you're absolutely correct. They're always house poor because they use the 36-42 ratios. You
okay, you
probably
gotta
have.
tell me about that.
Oh my God.
You said it.
I did. I said it, and it's like,
Come on.
oh, how did I do that?
So let me just say hi to Nasser John. He lives in California. He says that when you buy a house, you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's not necessarily true. If you have potential you want out, there's ways to get you out.
There's ways to get you out.
Yes.
Yes. Sharam says he's watching on YouTube. He says, thanks for the good information.
You're most
Some
welcome.
people are enjoying. Sarah is watching us as well. Thank you very much for whoever.
Oh,
And we're talking Money Talk with Ahmed Hawari, the real estate guru with
I am grateful for those comments. And speaking of that, and my name is Ahmed, and I am a strategic business development expert, and I am the real estate guru with a big heart. I was given that title, actually. I did not create that title, believe it or not. I was real estate guru before, but then somebody said with a big heart because I created a charity that is near and dear to my heart, and because of my son, who is my hero. You want to know the name of the charity?
Yes, please. I wanted to talk about that. So it's
It really is the most amazing name ever that will be in a book. Actually, the title of the book itself is called The Upside of Down Syndrome. So the book title is The Upside of Down Syndrome, and I made the charity to be the Upside of Down Syndrome charity. Wow.
Why
To
is that
me,
so important to you? Please talk about that, please, Ahmed.
okay. um, 6 years ago, well, first of all, our son came into our picture. He's going to be, he's going to be 28 this year.
Oh.
Hard to believe. It's time flies when you're having fun. It really does.
Yeah, no kidding.
He taught me so much over the years, more than I thought I taught him. The educational system we have in our school system, thanks to him, I was an activist, is a good word. I'm always proactive in the community and helping and volunteering and so forth. And in this case, because of him, I was able to learn how to communicate better, how to teach to you, which I am not applying right now because I would actually show you, demonstrate to you, illustrate to you, because all of us have 4 different learning mechanisms, for example, either visual, hearing, or hands-on, or some people like to read. So when you have those different combination, all of a sudden your receptors and how you receive knowledge, it is important. So if you're a reader and the person just talking your ears off, you're not going to get it.
Right.
If you have a hands-on person in your classroom and you just lecturing away on the blackboard or whatever, or in the classroom or a workshop, God bless you. Good luck catching up. The only people that are going to get that is the people who I would enjoy listening to somebody and get all the material and be able to catch everything and be able to learn it that fast. Those are the kind of people that will benefit from a lecture. But then when you go to a lab, the people who are hands-on, oh my God, they're going to flourish, right? And they prosper, and everybody else who likes to read first, they're out of the picture because they got to read the instructions so they can understand it, so they can perform the task. So these are tools of communication I teach in business, actually, as part of the business in real estate. Real estate is a business. It's not a hobby.
Oh,
Let me rephrase that again. Real estate is a business, is not a hobby. When anyone works with me as a real estate, the key thing is, one, are they coachable? 2, are they willing to learn? 3, are they open-minded? Because mindsets plays a huge factor.
mm-hmm.
But going back to teaching, and this is part of the tools of teaching, so I've learned it, and from literally, I started taking courses in self-development from 1990 for me. And I started out with Stephen Covey. And his biggest thing that he used to say, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the big stuff, and everything's small. Don't sweat the big stuff, and everything's small, which means there's nothing to worry about.
Nothing to
We
sweat
just,
about.
right, exactly. And there was a lot of tools he described that I started applying. And then I started getting into communication, personalities, and so forth. But those all helped me as I was working with my son when he was born and realize, oh, these tools are helping me communicate to the educators in our system. That's the way I'm helping my clients and working with other landlords or other real estate brokers and investors. And speaking of that, I want to clarify, I am not a real estate broker. I am not a real estate agent. I took all the courses. I didn't want to become one. I am a real estate investor. Just to clarify, I don't show houses and I sit there in an open house. Nah, that's not for me. And just for your information, less than 1% of houses sell because of open houses. So are you using your time wisely? Nah,
Mm-hmm.
not at all. So just FYI, for the real estate agents and brokers.
Agents. Yes.
Not less than 1% of houses sell because of an open house. Now, there might be outliers, but overall, less than 1%. So go back to teaching and all that. The bottom line is this. It got to the point I was doing so much. And 6 years ago, I was paralyzed. My left side completely. I ended up having to go to the hospital in December, and I didn't get out until just before New Year's. They had to do a surgical procedure, and the end result, it was the most It was the most devastating thing a human being can go through when you have something and you no longer have it. It opened my eyes hugely to a lot of things, to appreciate the little things in life, uh, the being in the present, being in the moment. And that's where my son actually came in even more so. He was my cheerleader. When I was learning to walk, learning to bathe, learning to put my clothes back on by myself without the help, and all this happened in a matter of 7 weeks. It's not like I got an accident, boom, and I was out, no longer walking. No, it just happened like that, 7 weeks. He was, he came to me one day, he goes, come up, knocked me on the shoulder, tap, and just simply said, Dad, keep up the good work. And he left and he walked away, literally. That's all he said. Now, the part which most people don't know, and I will express it now, that was so profound for me for the simplest thing. This young man, first of all, he was born 6 weeks early. Lungs were not fully developed. The cord, umbilical cord, was wrapped around his neck so tightly wound that he came out looking blue when he was born.
Hmm.
They put him in immediately in a 99.99% oxygen chamber so that he could breathe, as well as within the hour, they came up and told us that he had a large heart. Within 2 hours, they told us that he needed bone marrow. And at that point in time, as a father, my wife was in shock by that point in time. And it just, I never forget that moment. 10 till 8, August 15th, it was the happiest day, and it was a lot of sadness into it. And I think James McNeil said it best. Out of every, I'm paraphrasing essentially, out of every tragic moment in a person's life could be a miracle waiting to happen and could happen. And he has been the miracle for my life.
Oh, I can so resonate with that, Ahmed.
And it was just one of those. And then he had an open heart surgery on top of that.
He
And
he was a
he-
miracle baby. He was,
and to start out with, he was, and he lived. And
yes.
yet, at 2.5, he had open heart surgery.
Hmm.
Oh, and he's walking down the hallway without Tylenol or anything. And I'm like, huh? Who does that? And then at age 9, he had a stroke.
Wow.
And here he's telling me, a knock on the shoulder, Dad, keep up the good work. I'm
Amazing.
like, God love him. What is my excuse to not do what I need to do or get out and do what I need to do? And that's the moment I realized that my systems that I've been setting up all these years come to fruition for real estate. That's why my business could continue to run while I was in the hospital and trying to recover to walk. That's why things, the way are intended to be, they are there because they're intended to be there. And so when I teach people these little things, based on the stories, based on the thing, it's all about lessons you could set yourself for success. Success is the only option in my life. Simply put, whether it's a tenant, whether it's an investor, whether it's a contractor, or whether a person I'm coaching. And it's not just that. Their business can be beyond real estate, but I won't get into that. But I do want to touch two things for our audience to go back to the point about closing costs. For those of you who wants to know, it is about the appraisal cost, origination fee, appraisal fee, survey, title, additional fees that you could pass on the owners versus you, and so forth. We call it the HUD form in the US, but in Canada it could be a different form that has a lot of detail.
What's it
HUD,
called?
it's HUD, which is the Housing Urban Development Agency in the United States that created this
HUD.
form. It's called HUD
Thank you.
form in the US. In Canada, I don't know what the form is called,
I'm telling
but
you.
it has all these breakdowns that you, including taxes and insurance, that the owner has to pay. They will take out of his, they give you to yours, and so forth. And the next thing I wanted to touch base on, remember about the person who I took in
Yes, the lady who had a
with,
drug addiction.
yes, the drug addiction. So she rented from us. I gave her the room. Well, it turned out that she had 3 kids that she no longer had custody of. And now she is in a great position because, with our help, finding the place, because she has a place with us, she's kept up. She had a great job. She did very well. She started pulling herself by her own bootstraps, and we were giving her that little bit of support, just enough so that person can exceed and succeed. She came up to me and she goes, I am in a position, I need a bigger place. And I said, whoa, okay. Why do you need a bigger place? I mean, it's only you. She goes, I need to get my kids. It's like, how many kids do you have? She goes, 3. I said, okay, so how many bedrooms are you looking for? She goes, well, they allowed me 3-bedroom house or something with a 3-bedroom. And I said, well, there's one problem. We don't have any. We're literally full. I mean, we had no houses with 3-bedroom open and vacant. And I said, but there is an option we can consider. How would you like to stay with us if we bought a house and we have put you in it? Her face just lit up like Christmas lights. She goes, absolutely. So we looked for a house. We bought a house. We got the house ready. And we said, here are the keys. Now, it's not a gift, but we also know what her income is. And we know her price range that she could afford based on our formula, which I shared with you. A third of the net take home is what you need to look at. And she stayed in that house for 6 years to follow. So she bought a car. That's where the money issue comes in.
Ooh, I love that story, Ahmed.
Thank you. So she
Listen,
bought a car, and she bought it from one of those places, buy here, pay here. Well, those places usually are, they don't have the best interest of yours at heart, is the best way to put it.
you don't say.
I am telling you, it's true. So a year goes by. I didn't know she would what she did, but she comes up and she goes, "Oh, she's frustrated, she's flustered, and she's really freaking out." I said, "What's the problem?" She goes, "They're gonna repo my car." I'm like, "Why?" She goes, "I missed 2 payments." I said, "Okay, so pay them." She goes, "I am, but even though I'm paying them, they're gonna take the car." And it's like, "Well, that's not fair. So let me see what you got going on." That's when I discovered, when I looked at the pieces of paper she had, because she had no idea what she was looking at or signing for that matter. She didn't read, she didn't ask the questions, so she took it based on what? How much can she afford every payment? So, a tip to the wise for people who are in financials and discussions and all that. Well, hold on for a second. So, after all this, it turned out that they are, well, I'll tell you that tip right now. What you could afford, it depends on if you're savvy with money or not. If you're not, and if they tell you, "Oh, we calculated we can get you in a payment this much," then ask them, "What is the interest rate that this money will cost me over the period of time per year?" And then if it's 2 years, then per 2 years. And how much is that going to be per month for that matter? And you'll find out that typically speaking, you are paying somewhere between 30 to 40% interest. So let me put it in a different terminology. If you borrowed $100, you're paying them back $140.
Yes, that's yes. So on $100, you're paying $40
Yeah,
extra.
you borrowed 100, but in
Mm-hmm,
order to pay it back, you pay me 140.
mm-hmm.
Well, that was the deal with the car. And if you're buying a car or something like that, or rent a place, those rent a center and those places where you rent furniture, their interest rate is through the roof because you're paying for something. All you're doing is paying interest. So in those cases, typically speaking, the biggest money you pay up front is not the principal amount that you borrowed, is how much money these guys are going to make before you even collect for your principal.
Mhm.
So the first $100 you pay on a payment will be $99 interest and $1 on the principal that you borrowed out of whatever amount you borrowed. If you borrowed 1,000, then you'll have 999 left, and so on. So the same situation happened with this particular lady. And as a person with integrity and ethics and really fundamental values, I could not allow that to happen. So I said, "So what are you planning on doing?" So I coached her through the process, and I offered her a way out to show her the way out. And we end up actually literally giving the car back, having them wipe off completely the debt. There's no record that will be listed that she was behind or delinquent, because that could ruin your credit score. And that's another story altogether. If you want to learn more about that, you could reach me. By the way, aim for success 2020.com. I created a special private group on Facebook that you can get all these nuggets in a much more intimate setting. And it's typically a membership group, but I'm offering it right now for a limited time just to honor Dela and the group as a whole who's been listening. You will be able to get it for free. I'm having my first webinar on real estate and other business tips as we go forward, and I'm doing 4 days in a row, 1 hour at lunchtime, every day, Monday through Thursday, June 29th to July 2nd. And if you like the tips you received from me today, you really can get a lot more as we go forward. I'm going to make you work for it. It's almost like a classroom setting, but not quite that bad.
That's so good. I mean, for 4 days, lunchtime, sit there for 1 hour, watch you on Facebook. It's on Facebook, right? It'll be on
But it will
Facebook.
be the private group. It's not going to be live for everybody.
So you need to register. It's free at www.aimforsuccess2020.com. That's just the post that's on this video right now. And go there, register for the private Facebook page, and then just join the webinars 4 days in a row at lunchtime for an hour and just learn, 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 learn. Awesome. Awesome. Ahmed, I could be talking to you for another hour or two. So I think that we should have this talk again so that you can, like so you can enlighten us a little bit more.
I
Like
would love that.
we still like I wanted to go back to the name of your book, the 1% real estate rule, and also
Oh, let me move out of the way.
and you talked
Here we
about
go.
and you talked about the 34%.
The 36 and 42.
Yeah, 36 for like I have no idea what that is. So we need to come back to that and talk about that. But I really, really, really encourage everybody who's watching this to take advantage of these free webinars that you're offering. I mean, there's so much knowledge there. So go to www.aimforsuccess2020.com, register for that private Facebook group so that you can sign on. So starting on Tuesday, Thursday, Monday.
29,
So
June
Monday
29,
and
noon,
mm-hmm,
we're
mm-hmm.
starting, and we are going to be really opening up, and I'm going to give you some ability to ask questions, write them down, and so forth. And one of those days in particular is open Q&A for you to ask me anything you want. It could be real estate, it could be business, it could be finances, or it could be leadership. Those
Awesome.
are the four areas that I mentor as I go on helping, whether products you want to develop, whether you want to stay with real estate to create passive income and the wealth you desire, or if you want to be able as a business to grow and really become more efficient and effective, then I could help you. It's all about the foundation you set up to move forward with your mindset and your vision and your goals.
Amazing. Okay, so like to me, one of my passions is to learn something new every day. And there's no
Excellent.
better time, honestly. There's no better time than right now. Instead of spending that hour in front of TV, watching yet another stupid show or watching another sad story on the news, why don't you learn something new, something that could help your life, right? Help your
Absolutely. And
and
on that note, I will quote what Raymond Aaron said, and he's my coach as well, and I'm grateful for him as well. He said, "What goes in, most people think, oh, garbage in, garbage out. That's not true. Garbage in stays in, so
garbage in stays in.
it never leaves."
That's really good. So, oh, you know what? Actually, I just remembered there's a personality test that you said you were going to gift the audience.
When they join the Aim for Success 2020, they get a couple of things. One, they get something from my book downloadable as a gift, and when they join the Facebook group, which is free for you right now, I'm also gifting you a $99 personality that you get about 20-page report with it for you to use to be able to understand you, whether you're a person who likes details, whether you're a person who likes people, and you always wonder why the tendency that I have the way I have them. This will help you explain a little bit more. And this is one technique that I help people with just to know who they are
I love
as a
that.
person. And with it, it enhances your communication, it enhances your wealth, it enhances your life as a whole.
That's awesome. You know, like sometimes you just ask yourself, why do I always do this? Right?
Yeah.
Why do I tend to do this? And
Yeah. We talked about it the other day, right?
yeah, we did. This is part of self development, self growth, getting to know yourself. There's nothing more interesting than diving deep and like finding out more stuff about yourself, right?
And if they join me, they will discover what is the platinum rule
Ooh, I
as
know,
part of the.
but I'm
You
not.
know it because I told you so.
You know. You tell me. I want to
So,
thank everybody who's joined us. Edna,
oh, Annie is
Mia,
on, was on. Annie, Patel. Gosh, I
Debbie,
forgot.
Caroline, thank you so much, everybody who's been watching and giving us your time. It's awesome.
And and
Yeah,
Shahida says she's a hands-on person, and some other people wave from my side here. And August 15th is India's Freedom Day. Patel says, thank you, Dr. PPP. That's awesome. And it's my son's birthday, which is amazing.
oh yeah,
Oh, and he said, Ahmed Hawari, your story moves me and millions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled.
your
And
story.
I'm always grateful for these people. I really am.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Dela, for really having an amazing opportunity for me to speak with you. And your show is an amazing show. And Dela's voice, you are it. You are awesome.
Thank you, Ahmed. I really appreciate it. You're such a fun guy to talk to, and you make real estate almost enjoyable.
It is enjoyable. It's not as boring as most people think, and it's not as complex. Well, it's complex, but the question is how you deliver.
I guess like, if you have the right coach, and you are the right coach for this, it's
Thank you.
easy, yeah, and it's easy. You make it easier to understand. You make sense of money and interest rates and all the boring stuff.
And I lead. I want to say last time was, and I lead boring stuff. Speaking of boring stuff, and I lead. I met a person. Her name is Sharon, and she does sexy branding and so forth. And she's really successful. And she goes, I talked to her for like 10 minutes after I was on stage. I was the first speaker that day, and she goes, I have attended and met a lot of people who talked about real estate. No one No one has ever come close to the understanding, knowledge, or sincerity and authenticity that you have about it and the easiness of which you describe it. And I'm like, whoa, can you put that in the testimony? But I didn't think about it until later.
At least you remember it. You can still quote.
And she did. And guess what? My my phone wiped off all the pictures and testimony.
Oh
So I
no,
never got it. But she was amazing to tell me that. I was like, oh my God, that was so moving.
that's
And so she did give me the testimonials out of the blues, actually, when I said, "Oh, would you like to give me one?" She goes, "Oh, absolutely." And there was two other ladies I was speaking with at the time, and all of a sudden, there's three of them giving me testimonies. It's like, whoa! I
Well,
never thought I would get it, but I got it. Thank you.
you have it in you. So I mean, I personally thank you for all the wisdom you gave us tonight, all the knowledge you shared with us, and
I'm grateful.
thank you. And I will take advantage of the free teachings that you have going on next week for sure, because I also want to do that personality test. So. Uh,
Absolutely.
is there anything else you want to add, Ahmed, before we say goodbye? Is there anything you want to leave people with? Any words of encouragement, motivation?
Be yourself, be confident, and be grateful.
Be yourself and be confident. What was the third thing?
Be grateful.
Be grateful. Oh, I'm big on being grateful for sure.
Absolutely. And when you're confident in yourself, you enjoy life and you enjoy the people around you, and ultimately just be grateful and thankful for everything you have. Because honestly, you could lose in a blink of eye. Like I lost my walk and been paralyzed 6 years ago. I'm grateful to be walking and doing what I do, and I love what I do. And most people look at me, it's like, what's wrong with you? You're hopping from Slovenia to England to Jordan to Kuwait, back to United Arab Emirates, back to Houston to LA to Canada. Last year I made 16 trips to Toronto.
Toronto's a great place.
This year, between the beginning of February and the beginning of March, I made 6 trips to Toronto.
You're a lucky man, Ahmed Hawari.
Just this year.
You're a lucky man. So this
I
is
am.
a comment from Debbie. What a beautiful story. Thank you both very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Debbie. And I trust I'll see you at aimforsuccess2020.com.
Awesome.
And I would love to have you there.
So Ahmed, I want to go back to something you said before we leave. Keyword passive income, uh,
Hmm.
right? And for to a lot of people, passive income is a dream. Um, that's maybe very much outside their knowledge base, but also outside their comfort zone because they don't know how to do it. And you help people achieve passive income through investing. So if anyone's interested in having a passive income, they can come to you.
And for those of you who are looking not to own a house, but you have money and you want to create passive income through real estate, I could show you the way to create. And one last tip, if I may, for those people who have a house, they're cash poor, I could show you how you could convert cash poor, having a house with equity, into money in your pocket,
This is good.
which is passive income.
Money in your pocket is like, I
I
like,
like
I like.
30 years worth.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Okay,
Absolutely. Thank you, Dela. You are awesome.
you're welcome, my friend. You're welcome. Again, that is www.aimforsuccess2020.com.
Yes.
Register for free to a private Facebook group where you can watch Ahmed's webinars for 4 days in a row, an hour lunchtime at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, and learn, 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 learn. Okay, that's all I got.
Perfect.
All I got.
Thank you. God
Oh,
bless.
you're welcome. Thank you,
Take
Ahmed,
care.
again
Bye
for
bye.
coming on tonight. And for everyone who's tuned in or will tune in, I hope that you take what you want and leave the rest. Make it better. Make it better. And have a safe day. Enjoy blessings, my friend. And till next time, this has been Della's voice, hoping to spark your soul. Bye.